Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Elliot Page coming out later in life and why I think that cis people are kind of obsessed with that at the moment. For context, I am also a non-binary trans person who uses he, they, them pronouns. So I hope that will give you a little bit of context of why I'm speaking out on this issue, and then we'll circle back around to my own personal experience on coming out basically in my mid-20s again as trans. I see a lot of conversation happening mainly with LGBTQ members that are not a part of the T or not a part of the non-binary community, talking about their opinions on losing one of their idols, and I kind of wanted to speak to that. Growing up, I remember reading about how actors and actresses would actually lose opportunities within their field once they had come out as LGBTQIA alphabet mafia. And it was something that I thought about a lot throughout my life. I was outed in junior high, so that kind of played a bit of perspective into my timeline of medical transition and then socially transitioning. I find it funny that cis people seem very highly invested in this topic, even though it doesn't really pertain to them, and as most cis people have said themselves, gender is not something that they've had to even consider or really explore. And it puts you in an interesting spot as a non-binary trans person who also enjoys making media, because we seemingly can't have a place. Trans creators have been talking about this. We've been very loud for years on YouTube as a platform that there has been harassment, and there's been ideas of like, you've got to look this, and this in order to pass, which then puts people into situations where they're belittled by people of the same community, which is very frustrating. And let's be real, passing is a cis concept. It's very much a cisgendered way of thinking. Because even within trans circles, there's not one way to transition on either end of the spectrum. But then, why do we care so much about the opinions of cis people? Why do we care? It's important because you all tend to frame the conversation a lot more than actual trans voices do. It's incredibly frustrating, to be quite frank. People who are gender critical or feel the need to call into question the legitimacy of trans people's transitions continue to baffle me and astound me. The misgendering and like undertones and blatant transphobia that came up in recent events is very interesting, and I feel like kind of attests to much of what was said in Elliot's coming out, into how we need to have these role models and representations for trans youth in the future, to give them a template that isn't just based on the gender binary, but can also go outside of it. I think it's fair for questions to be framed in a way of a purpose of education, but when we're calling into legitimacy the feelings and experiences of trans people who have had to live their lives in the closet, I think that it is very effed up, if you would. I think it's a very effed up thing to do, because there's no way that you could have heard their inner dialogue their whole life, and the thoughts and how their relationships and expression of gender differs from their identity of their gender. And when you throw in any element of being in the public eye or having a trauma background, things get even more messy. So as somebody who has come out once again in their mid-ish 20s, I will be 24 this year. I think that these are important things to allow there to be a conversation with trans voices who are actually experiencing it, talking about it. And those should be the voices leading the conversation that way. When there are people who are younger, hopefully the goal would be that people can come out later in life. But I also don't think that these things need to be necessarily time sensitive unless you're wanting to get puberty blockers and things of that nature. But as we are seeing legislation around the globe is becoming more and more apparent that they don't really see trans youth or trans people on the same playing field in the sense of sports or otherwise. And it's very frustrating because I want to be able to create content in which I won't get pigeonholed, but I know by even making one video about being trans, it's high probability that people will want to know more information, and I think that that makes sense. That makes sense to want to know more. But it's so invasive, some of the things that especially cis people think that they can kind of assume or directly ask or insinuate. It's very annoying. I do want to make more videos talking about gender and sexuality so that so that there's more people who actually are experiencing it, talking about it. But when we have goddamn TERFs walking around, it's just so ridiculous. It's very funny to me to still actively get misgendered to this day. But that in and of itself is kind of based upon the gender binary. Because if I'm feeling as if I shouldn't be pegged as female anymore, that would kind of insinuate that that I am being pegged as something other than. And it's all about being perceived, I suppose. I don't know if I want to live in a world where I am constantly thinking about how others perceive me. I would much rather live in a space in which I could just be a dude hanging out, playing video games, not having medical or any one attribute being my sole existence. And I feel like that is a good place to end this one on. Wrapping up thoughts would be that I think that it's interesting that cis people seem to control the dialogue quite a lot. And then trans people have to make responses to be like, hey, no, that's not right. You can't say that. That's not our experience. And I think that it's good that we do have more role models like Elliot Page. I think that their coming out was important because, like, when he comes out, we're able to exercise the use of using they and he interchangeably. Gives us more conversation points for, hey, do you know that movie that Elliot Page was in? And then kind of go from there. I hope that this leaves you all with some thoughts. If you have any thoughts that you would like to share, feel free to drop them in the comment box down below. I or someone in my system will get back to it. We have a bunch of videos that I am currently pre-filming, and everything will be uploaded first to Patreon. So once again, thank you to our patrons. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.